Hello, gorgeous soul, and welcome to Susie's Enchanted Crossroads. I'm Susie, and this podcast helps you navigate your journey through the crossroads by taking a deeper look into witchcraft and spirituality. So settle in, grab your beverage of choice, and let's get this episode going. Hello, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing soul. How are y'all doing out there? I'll tell you one thing, here in Texas, we melting. We are in a heat wave, and I'm talking, let me see. Today we hit 106. Currently, it is 8 o'clock p.m. and it is 100 degrees outside. So just love that for us. Um, Dry heat, no humidity. So, I mean, I'm not gonna complain. You know what I mean? Too much. Also, I love being in my house. Thankfully, I have air conditioning. I try to do what I need to do early in the morning because let's see, recently at by 8 a.m. it's already about 81 degrees outside. And even with the breeze, I mean, it's okay. But damn, when there's no clouds, you feel that sun. Holy crap. So, anywho's, with that note, I mean, it's not even summer yet. Summer is around the corner. We're coming up on the summer solstice, coming up on the 20th next week. So, next week's episode will be all about the summer solstice, how to get ready for it, what to do, what the heck even is a summer solstice. So, I'm really excited for that episode to drop. But as I was alluding in the episode before, I had received a question. And before I was gonna, give such a cut and dry answer, I wanted to add a little bit more depth into answering this question, a little bit more of the folklore, a little bit more of the history and the why, because it was a good question. And as we just dive on into this episode, the question I received is why salt? Why is salt essential for spiritual healing in everything? We see salt for protection for everything and salt to keep out ghosts and demons and all of that, right? So why salt? Why is that? So that's what I'm going to go ahead and jump into today. There are many different magical traditions that call for the use of salt, right? In either your spells or your rituals. And the use of salt goes back like forever, centuries, right? And it's always been known to have very magical properties. And with salt, I mean, obviously now we think of salt because I mean that's what we use in our recipes, right? We need a certain amount of salt in our bodies when we sweat, like how we do here in Texas. I'm sure everywhere else. You sweat and you're releasing that salt. So salt is a very essential component, not just, in your cooking, in your seasoning, but in your magical practice as well. So, we're going to take a deeper dive into why salt is important and how, yes, there's different types of seasoning salt. So, you have, which I'll get into, right? Like table salt, kosher salt. But also in your magical practice, you have black salt, you have green, literally any color you can think of right now, that salt. Because now that we can really use that base of salt, we can add so many other things to it to give it that extra layer. So as I've been dropping these episodes, right, as I'm giving you more information on things, this is another way to add layers to your rituals, to, I was going to say to your salts, to your rituals, to your spells by using color magic, by using herbs, by using the day of the week, by using the different moon cycles, even the time of the day or the evening. All of that creates just layers and almost, if you will, a depth of flavor in your spell and your ritual, right? So, I'm gonna take a little sip here before we get started. So maybe you should do the same. What are y'all drinking today? I am actually not drinking coffee or iced coffee. I'm actually having some sweet tea. So a little bit of a change there. Okay, where do I want to start? Let me jump into my notes here. I don't want to jump into the spell work just yet. Let's go ahead and do salt as it's known for, right? Seasoning and preserving food, because that in itself, back in the day, when there wasn't refrigerators, how are we preserving the food so that way it could last us throughout each season of the year? Salt is a beautiful way to preserve that food. This mineral has been used in spiritual and religious traditions for just on generations. And if you look at it, I'm just like a crystal girly, but if you look at salt, right, under a microscope, you can see how unique and extraordinary it is as you see the different patterns. As a kid, I loved my finger microscope. I would put everything under that sucker because it's like connecting to a whole new world. And I myself just finished creating a distance Reiki board where I was using Metatron's cube. And as I was going down that little rabbit hole, right, and we're looking at salt underneath a microscope, it's almost like those structures, just like Metatron's cube, is like that sacred geometry, a connection, right? You keep going deeper and deeper into all of these crevices and these crystals. And it's it's not even a rabbit hole, it's like you're going into a whole new universe. And there is like where you connect almost to that spiritual realm, that spiritual world. And you're like, damn, Susie, you're getting all deep on salt here. But that connection and the integral role that salt plays, how can you not? I mean, yeah, you throw salt on, your roast to bring out the savory. And even when you're making chocolate chip cookies to enhance that sweetness, you add a little bit of salt on there, some crystal, like some good chunky salt on there. It's so good. I mean, it's obviously a staple in the kitchen, right? If if anything, you got to add salt and pepper. But it's just adding so much, even just to the simplest dish. And it adds so much even to the simplest spell or ritual. Salt is powerful. It has a lot of purification and protective qualities. It can help the body and the spirit to heal. Just like I love kitchen magic and kitchen witchery, because if you've ever had a good meal, even a good, maybe even a beverage, right? But when you have a meal that was cooked for you and you just get lost in all the flavors, and it's like, oh man, this was made with love. Yeah, you can literally taste that. It was made with love. But all of that really comes out in all of the flavors as we use the salt. Very obviously, I really love this. Okay, just like anything else, moderation. So salt's kind of had a bad reputation about, maybe giving you some high blood pressure. But obviously, our bodies cannot function without salt in our bodies. I don't know if you're a frequent TikToker, any of y'all out there, but the Celtic salt was like all the craze, right? Because you If you're not getting enough from your water, if you're not hydrating, you put the crystal underneath your tongue and it really helps you, really helps out the body. And I'm always like, damn, that's freaking amazing. Just like these little crystals of salt. But just like anything else, you need to maintain proper balance. Even as I do tarot, even as I do Reiki, there is a beautiful balance that we need to maintain that sometimes it gets lost in our day-to-day life. So, even as we go in from like cooking and into our spell work, we need to be knowledgeable on what we're cooking with, right? We don't want to oversalt our meal because then it's not edible. But we don't want to not add enough, and then it's like, then you feel like it's missing a little something. Like, you know, and for myself, I mean, I don't really measure. I measure with my heart. I stop when my ancestors tell me to stop. But you always have, when you look at a recipe, right, salt to taste, right? Because everyone's taste is different. But the goal here is you want that flavor to stand out a little more, right? When you're cooking. And same when it comes to your spell or ritual work. Cool. So, what kind of salts do we got? Right? We have, where is my notes? Right over here. I thought I had the different salts. Obviously, we have regular salts, we have Himalayan pink salts, um, table salts, all the salts. And you can look up the different salts that that are around, and you can actually look up those properties for yourself. But usually when we're doing any kind of spiritual work, normally we just call for either sea salt or you can use regular table salt, right? This is your practice. So let's go back with a little bit of how salt became such a magical item, right? What is it? What's the legend? What's the lore? So in the early days, the process of harvesting salt took time. It was very time consuming. A lot of labor went into it. And salt was a pretty valuable commodity. And of course, only the rich could afford it. It was said that the Romans actually paid their soldiers with salt because it was so important to things, like I said earlier, food preservation. And I didn't know this, but the word salary has a root in Latin for salts. I love doing research. That's why I was like, I want to really dig deep into this salt. So, of course, if you're getting paid in salt, it's obviously pretty pricey. And that's when it starts to find its way into our spiritual realm. It appears in the Bible. I believe it was the Old Testament. Many Eastern beliefs believe that salt is both a purifier and repels evil. And salt in its purification spells is really incorporated to represent on your altar as the element of earth. But some also associate salt with water because of its origins of the sea. So when you're using your salt, are you using sea salt where you can actually harness that water element? Or you're using regular salt where it's just the earth element? It's amazing how when I was looking things up, like as far as the lore, and you come across superstitions, And, you know, when you spill salt, it's like, oh my gosh, you got to throw it over your left shoulder because then bad luck, bad luck. But also, the reason for that is it will start a quarrel. It'll start a fight. It'll start problems because it was so expensive. It was such a thing to have. It was almost like oranges back in the day, right? The citrus. So, yeah, salt is amazing because if you just look at it, how we use it in our mundane life, those magical properties really start to come in because preserving your food with salt in and itself is magical. Yes, it's science, but the magic there. I mean, now it's like, oh, you throw it in the fridge, you throw it in the freezer, but we still use salt in order to preserve our foods, which I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought that was amazing. So, when we look at the properties, the magical properties of salt, seeing that salt is sacred minerals of the earth, it represents also it represents protection, but also prosperity because it was used to pay your salary. So salt can really be associated with financial abundance. And then you boost that when you mix it with other ingredients that are related to prosperity and wealth. So maybe some basil, some catnip, that attracts. It's leaving my brain right now, but I can see it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Alfalfa also brings in wealth and prosperity. But the most that we know it for, right, was where we got this question was its magical barriers. Putting a circle of salt around you. So when we're picking our salts, like I said, you have different types of salts. And I just saw my notes right here. I meant to put a little arrow here, but sea salts are sacred to water deities while still remaining a mineral of the earth. You have volcanic salts, which are sacred to fire and volcano deities. And salts that are from underground mines are sacred to earth and earth spirits and deities. So, as we're going into the why, just understanding the strong significance and how far back salt goes in the history. Judeo-Christian traditions are salt is a great purifier, right? We go back, like I said, salt was added as a seasoning for holy incense. Salt is used as far as your history. It just was always had an important place in the religion and the culture. Greek worshippers consecrated salt in their rituals. Even as we go back, Jewish temples offered offerings included salt, right? On a Sabbath. People of Jewish faith would dip their bread in salt as a remembrance to those sacrifices. And then I did see this, and I vaguely remember as I am Catholic, but the Old Testament, Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt. So the Old and the New Testaments were often sealed in salt, and the origin word of salvation in the Catholic Church, salt is or has been used in a variety of purification rituals. This was new to me. A small taste of salt was placed on a baby's lip at his or her baptism. I did not know that, and I did grow up Catholic. That I did not know. So that was a thing. And also, In Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, The Last Supper, Judas had spilled a bowl of salt, which is known as the portent of evil and bad luck, right? Drop the salt, you gotta throw it over your shoulder, or else you're gonna get bad luck. And that is why to that day, the tradition endures that when people spill salt, they should throw a pinch over their left shoulder to ward off any evils or devils that may be lurking behind. Isn't that wild? I didn't know where it stemmed from, and that's where it is. In a Buddhist tradition, salt repels evil spirits, which is why it is customary to throw salt over your shoulder before entering your house after a funeral. It scares off any um, spirits that may have clung on to you after going to a funeral, maybe the cemetery. In Shinto religion, they also use salt to purify an area. So before, sumo wrestlers entering a ring for a match would get a handful of salt thrown into the center to drive off any malevolent spirits. So very interesting, all of this information, all on salt. And holy water of the Roman Catholic Church is prepared by exercising and blessing the salt and water separately, after which the salt is dissolved in the water and then a benediction pronounced upon the mixture. So freaking cool. And going back, right? Going back to the earth and the salt and how it's, we see salt, not sea salt, but we see it, salt, as a natural cleanser as well, modern day, right? We can scour the pots. You put a little bit of salt on a lemon half, and then you scrub to get like all that nasty crap off of it. And so when we're talking about it being a cleansing, right? And I'm going back to supernatural on this because it came to mind. I mean, obviously we understand the salt circle. It keeps you safe from any spirits coming in and evil. But if you've seen Supernatural or if you've read any other spiritual books, the salting and burning of the bones, right? So they found whatever ghost and they have to go and, burn the remains. But if you've noticed, they actually do put salt on the bones and then some lighter fluid and, burn, burn, baby, burn. But that was actually a custom was salting the ground so that nothing can grow there. And actually the Romans supposedly did this um when they would conquer lands. That way nothing can grow there. So when you are using salt for your ritual, and I have gotten the question of, okay, I did this spell candle. What do I do with it? Okay, I did a spell ritual and I have all these herbs and wax and whatnot. What do I do with it? Like, I feel bad throwing it away. Do I throw it away? And we start overthinking. But those are valid questions. So if it has salt in it, you have to throw it out. Because if you bury it, because there are some things like, yeah, you know what? Give it back to the earth. Whatever herbs are there, you can toss it outside, you can bury it, you can give it as an offering. But if it has salt, you're gonna have to toss it because nothing is gonna be able to grow there and you're gonna really mess up the the area. So that's something is a no-no, in case you were wondering. So Yeah, the salt is used for many, many different purposes. It can repel, but it can also protect, but it could also bring in. And the reason for that, it's because of the rich history that salt has going back many, 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 many moons, right? So, a beautiful thing with salt as well is that it's nowadays you can find it anywhere. It's not expensive at all, especially if you're just getting regular table salt. And less is more when it comes to the salt. You can simply just spread a thin layer on a surface. And you can put it on basically anything, your kitchen counter, a cutting board. And you can use it in place of eggshells, cascarillas. I love using eggshells though, because at least with the eggshells, you can, when you grind them up and do all the things you got to do to make sure it's clean, I can put that outside without worrying about it. You know what I mean? Um, but that's, let me see if I can go back to my notes. Okay, yes, here we go. So, when we use salt in our spirituality, because salt is very powerful, we know it can come from either using the elements of earth, fire, and water. Its purification and protective qualities can really help the body and spirit to heal, as I stated before, right? So, when we need to cleanse ourselves physically or energetically, the salt is believed to extract or release what no longer serves us in our energetic field, right? So, it has a positive impact on our physical form. When we use it in or around our area, it is a protection of the home or a sacred space. It repels that negativity from entering and it wards off the evil because of the way that it is just harvested from the earth and the properties it holds. And that's why you see, either around your spell, if you look up spells or rituals, or you watch any spiritual a ritual, a witchy show or movie, they cast a circle of salt around them, right? Hello, Hocus Pocus. When Allison is like throwing salt around her erratically, Winifred's like, what a smart witch. Um, that way it's just used to purify and remove, right? Or repel. Okay, so here we go. Sorry. Salt is believed to repel evil spirits and absorb negative energy from a physical space or our aura. The electromagnetic energy field that surrounds or encompasses the physical body. So, shamanic traditions use pink Himalayan salt for this. And I didn't know this, but did you know pink Himalayan salt is over 250 million years old? The salt is used to purify and remove stagnant or negative energy. I should start reading straight from my notes instead of starting going on these tangents. And I think I already said all of this other good stuff. Okay, so we know that we can use these for our bodies and spiritual benefits. Salt can be very, very healing. It's a major component in religious and spiritual rituals in our cooking, but it is very restorative and very resilient. So, when we're doing, at least for myself, when we're doing limpias, right? I do the egg limpia or even like a spiritual baño. you are soaking in warm water mixed with salt and flowers and herbs because that has a profound impact on your spiritual health and your overall balance. These are sacred baths, and it is prepared with intention. It is beautiful use of that intention that's going into this as it banishes that negativity, that stagnant energy, evil or whatnot. And it's become such a staple now, and it's so easy to get it that you can get Epsom salts and soak in that bath nice and easy, right? And when you use it in your food, in your drink, in your rituals, in your baths, it's you're asking that salt to be an added protection for you, but also liberate you from lower vibrational energies. That's it. That is what you're doing. That is what you're asking for. You can use salts in obviously in your food, right? So you can use your kitchen magic, but you can use it in a witch's bottle. You can you give it as an offering, especially if you're offering to deities like here or maybe your ancestors, because we take for granted how easily accessible a lot is for us, but salt was salt was expensive. You can use salt in your cleaning of your home, cleansing it also, but in the cleaning, like give yourself a little ritual, a little ceremony as you clean your home or your space. Salt is an amazing thing, y'all. It really, really is. Um, but I really want you to, unless you would like me to further dig deeper on this, but you can look up all the different properties, spiritual properties of all the different salts. You know, your kosher salts, your sea salt, your pink Himalayan salt, your gray salt, all of it. Like, look it up and really see the different varieties, where they come from, maybe even the flavor, and you can add even more depth into your spiritual practice. Hey, shoot, even your food, instead of just always using table salt, maybe you can start adding a different depth by using a different type of salt. I would try it out though. Make sure you like it. Right? So, okay. I am pretty sure I touched everything because I was bouncing around a little bit in my notes. However, this was pretty good. So, different types of salts that we have for our witchcraft, right? Like I said, you have green salt, black salt, basically any color, like I said, salt. But the main thing that you'll see more often than not is black salt all the time. You can go on TikTok, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Pinterest, you can read a book, you can look it up on the Google, and you'll see black salt. I'm going to take a sip of my iced tea. Black salt is so easy to make. And honestly, there's different ways to creating black salt. Excuse me. So when we're looking at black salt, you can, it can be very, very easy. You don't need a lot, but black salt is usually, it's used for its ability to cleanse the space and repel the unwanted. And can you do that with regular salt? Yes, obviously. I just did a whole, however many minutes it's been already, what, 30 minutes? In how you can use just regular salt. However, the black salts is what adds that another layer, as I say, as far as protecting and maybe getting rid of the unwanted guests or entities in your space, in your home. There's different ways, as I said. And just depending on what you like, you can, make your own black salt. So you could, if you're really looking like a little more traditional of the black salt, you would actually make it with um usually the bottle has a cast iron bottle or a vessel, whatever you're going to store your salt in, because iron is well known for its ability to draw, negativity and evil and all that stuff away from, your spell work or, people or whatnot. And that is why iron is also a very popular ingredient in magic to use, right? You could have iron shavings or just having the cast iron in how you're creating your salt or whatnot. So no worries if you don't have it. It's not a big deal. Um, but here we go. So if you're wanting to write this down, you most certainly can. So a few things you can do for black salt. If you're able to use incense, this is the easiest way to create black salt, which is one of the ones that I love the best. So you're going to grab your salt and you're going to put it in a vessel. So anything, I don't know, whichever. I have a little cauldron, you can put in a little bowl. Usually something where it has enough depth, because what you're going to do is you're going to light your incense and you're going to stick your incense in the salt and you're going to let your incense just burn all the way through. So what you're doing is you're collecting the ash from your incense in that black salt. In that salt to create black salt. Isn't that super cool? Super, super easy. That is one of the easiest ways that you'll be able to create black salt. Let me preface this. You cannot ingest this salt. Okay, please do not. Black salt is very different from volcanic salt that you can consume. This is no, you're putting ashes in the salt. Okay, so you do not, please do not eat that. Equally, if you are conducting any ritual work, a spell, and it calls for protection or banishing negativity, you write that intention on a paper or on a bay leaf, you light it, turn that into ash, and that goes into your salt. So basically what you're doing is that you're collecting the ashes to be put and mixed into this salt. Now, once you have gathered however much you want, you're actually going to get a mortar and pestle. You don't have to, but you're gonna kind of work and grind them down into a finer dust, if you may, because depending on your incense, depending on how well the paper or the bay leaf burned into the ash, you really want to work it so that way you don't just have big chunks. You want it really incorporated into the salt. And then you stir and stir and stir. And as you're grinding, as you're stirring your mixture, you're putting in your intention. So the intention is to protect your energy, protect the space, banishing any negative or stagnant energy or entities, what have you. If you can get shavings or you can mix it in a cast iron cauldron or a pan, again, because iron has those strong protective qualities, that'll just add another layer to your protection salt. And that's it. You can sprinkle it around. Another way you can create black salt is to use activated charcoal. Charcoal has cleansing properties as well, and it will make your witch's salt turn black, right? So this is in case you are not able to burn incense or, light anything on fire. So this is an alternative to making black salt. So it's the same way. You get your salt, if you can put it in a mortar and pestle or put in your cast iron, what have you, and you're going to sprinkle that activated charcoal in. And same thing, you're gonna, well, you add until you like the color, whatever, however dark you want it, and you're calling in your intention the same way we did with the ashes, right? Because you're infusing it with that energy, with your desire, with that thing that's in mind, right? So the witch's salt made by me protects me, any negative or stagnant energy that is around me, within me, in my space, I don't know, is removed or is banished or is no longer welcome here. And you can put that on your altar. If you work with deities, you can ask for your guides, ask for their blessing, add another layer of it, however you want to do it. And just like I did in the previous episode with banishing and removing, remember, whatever you are casting out is great, but what are you bringing in its place? So if there's been a lot of chaos going on, you are removing that energy and in its place, peace, sense of calm, grounded energy. Once it's made and you're really happy with it, then you're just going to pour it into, usually it's a glass jar, it doesn't have to be, but any kind of vessel for storage, and just keep it airtight. You don't want salt and black salt to be going all over the place. And you can use it as your base. Black salt is not something that expires, obviously, it's salt. So you can I like to make a big batch and it's just readily available whenever I need it. It's like I'm doing this whole series on my Instagram, right? And I'm doing like a set it and forget it. It's what am I trying to say? It's like you're meal prepping your spell work. So just making like a good enough batch to create, especially if you're gonna be working a lot with um that in your spell work. Equally, you just be careful as I'm thinking about it with activated charcoal. That shit gets everywhere. Because that's how I made my black salt. And I'm like, damn, holy crap. I was just like, yeah, I'll make it really, really dark. Anyway, so making um protection spell jars, sachets, what have you, and using it however it is that you would like. You can even use it like as a protective, like sprinkle it in for protection. Don't forget that, and I'm really only going to go over your black salt here, but remember that salt also has abundance, financial abundance properties. So equally as we made black salt, you can make green salt. Hell yeah, you can. Like I said, any color, to be very, very honest. So your green salt, you would take your salt, same way, same exact way. And you can have incense, just like you could have like dragon blood incense or whatnot for your black salt. Equally, you can grab incense for abundance, prosperity, bringing money, and put that into the salt. You can add herbs or flowers associated with bringing in abundance, like I said, basil. So you can write the dollar amount or, bring in money, a rune sign, what have you. You can even burn that. Yes, you have some of that black salt in there, but you're using the ash of the basil. of that property. Same thing with catnip to attract, and like I said, alfalfa, any herbs that you feel, you know what, this is what I want. You can even add what's the word? Mica, what is the food coloring into it and just mix it in. I've even seen this done with rice because I don't want to go down this whole thing because this is going to be a real long episode. This is only for salt, Susie, only for salt. But you can also use it for rice because rice is also associated with financial abundance. So, yeah, you can. Salt is amazing. With one question, we got a whole episode. I just really wanted to go over, this folklore and the mythology and the history and why is salt so essential for, you know, spiritual work and even spiritual healing. So is how I think of it. How far it's come. I've learned some new stuff doing this research. This was awesome. It was great for me. I love learning. And just really sitting and thinking about the ways that salt can also be very healing. If you've ever been sick or had sore muscles, if you were an athlete and you soak in an Epsom salt bath, very healing because it's drawing things out. So things that are in the mundane and the spiritual sense have a beautiful overlap for a very good reason. So thank you so much for that question. This was obviously way before, and this is just really in passing. I'm not going to drop names, but if you have a question, if you have a topic you would like for me to discuss or a question you would like answered, some of them are real easy, like real easy, quick. I can do it, before an episode, answer it. But some are like this one where you think, oh, I'm just gonna get a real quick answer and then I have a whole episode on it. But really digging into the research is I love it. This is what I love doing. So in the show notes, there's a link. You can click on that link and fill out a little form on what your question is. And if you would like me to say your name on the podcast or drop your at on your social. If not, you can remain anonymous, no biggie. So you can even have an alias if you want to. But yeah, I want to hear from you. Continue sending in your questions, your topics. I believe I got two on my Instagram. So you can hit me up. Email me at susiesenchantedcrossroads@gmail.com. You can fill out the link there in the show notes, or you hit me up on TikTok or on Instagram. So totally up to you. And I can't wait to discuss the summer solstice. I hope you're excited too. And until next time, gorgeous soul, I will see you at the crossroads.